Let's create a database. So let's first start with doing all of the steps to earn a C grade. So we download the spreadsheets that are with this project to the computer, and we start a database. It's titled MLB, and then you replace the X's with your initials. And then we're going to import the Excel spreadsheets. I created them so you don't have to spend all your time typing. And we're going to import those so that you can work with them. So you click on the External Data tab and click on Excel. Migrate to where you have the information stored. And we're going to import into a new table. And step 5, let's see, show worksheets. Step 5, click the first row, contains column headings. You want to make sure that you do that. It's important. And next. Step 6, click on the down arrow next to indexed and choose yes, no duplicates, and then next. 7, click choose my own primary key and choose, in this case we're going to choose Coach ID because I actually opened that one first. And next, we're going to rename, so TBL Coaches, and finish. Close. And my table Coaches is in place. So I do that for each one of my tables. Let's do one more. Excel, and this time we'll do Players. We make sure that we've got our sheet showing. First column does contain headers. Yes, no duplicates. Next. My own primary key, and I want player ID. Next. We always use standard naming conventions, and TBL stands for table, and players. And then you do upper and lower. TBL, FRM, RPT, the type of report or the type of item it is lowercase, and then the name of the item is upper and lower, and it all runs together. And then finish. And I do want to delete my table. Oh, then that's in step 4. Delete unused table from database. So you have to close it before you can do that. And if it shows up, then it's there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and download the other tables, and then we'll keep going. Okay, I've imported each one of my tables from Excel, and I'm ready to keep going. Next on my list, and I am on I am in section to earn a C, and I am on step 5, verify primary keys and establish relationships. And team ID is the foreign key for my related tables, just as an FYI. So I go into Database Tools and Relationships, and I want all of my items to show. Actually, I don't need state abbreviations right now. So I've got my items up, and I want to make sure that I can see them. So if you can't see all of the text, you do want to adjust that. And let's take a look at relationships and understand those a little bit better. In order for a relationship-based database to work correctly, they have to have relationships, because it has to understand how a coach relates to a team, or how a player relates to a team. The way it connects is one item of one thing connects with many items of another. So in our case, one player or one team can have many players. So your team is your one item, and your team in the players area is just your connection. So you have a 1 and then you have infinity for many. So your primary key, and you can see because it has a little key here, is your team ID. You add the base column in the area that you want your relationship so that it's able to create that connection. You really aren't using team ID in table players. It's just used as a connection so that you can create a relationship between team and player. Same thing with sponsors. One team can have many sponsors. And we're going to enforce referential integrity, meaning that we're not going to allow duplicates. And one team can have many coaches. So our central point of focus is our teams. Our one team can have many players, many coaches, and many sponsors. Once I've got my relationship set up, I'm ready to move on to the next step. And I can close my relationships. So it says rename zip in sponsors table to read sponsors zip. So if I open my sponsors table and I go home, I go into design view, and I'm going to change zip to sponsor zip. Step 7, create a simple query showing only the following information. So I can go ahead and go back here to datasheet view and close this, and now I'm going to create a query. I'm going to call it query coaches, and to create a query I click on create, and there's this wonderful thing called a query wizard that does most of the work for me. And in this class we're only going to use we're only going to use a simple query wizard. So we say OK, and then it asks what areas that we want to include. And according to my instructions, I want the table coaches, because we're using coaches information, and we want coach first name, we want coach last name, coach title, and then we want to go into the team, and we want team name. Next, we want to name it QRY, remember it's all lowercase, and then coaches, and finish. Right now it's giving us the full list of everyone that we have in there, but we want to limit the output to only show first base coaches. So if I go home, I can go into view, and I can go into design view, and then in the coach title area I can type in first base. Then I click run, and it narrows it to only show first base. And then I can close this, and I do want to save it. So now I've got tables and a query. Step 8, create a form showing only the following information. Hint, name it form coaches. So we're going to go to create, we're going to go to form wizard, and we're going to include just the information that's on the list. So I'm going to go into my coaches table, and according to the form I want team ID, coach's first name, coach's last name, and coach title. Next, use justified format, title it FRM Coaches, and finish. So now if I were to work through the different records, I can see the different team and role that each one of the coaches has. And I can close this one. Step 9. Add a column to the table sponsors table. So I'm going to open my table sponsors and go into design view. And let's see, let's read this again. Add a column in the table sponsors table before zip. So I click on sponsor zip, right click, and click insert row. And it's titled sponsor state. And it would be text. Add the associated state to each entry. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my home sheet and I'm going to go into data sheet view, and I know that Beaverton is in Oregon and Portland is in Oregon and Seattle is in Washington. Tempe is in Arizona, and Vancouver is in Washington. Okay, and that's done. So I can close that item. And I'm to step 10. I'm going to create a sheet of mailing labels showing only the information listed below. So I'm in my Create, and I'm going to click on Labels. And it asks what kind of labels, and I want Avery 5160, so I move to 5160, and then next I'm just going to accept the default text size, etc. And I want, let's see, the first line is going to be my sponsor name, and then space, and then team ID, and then my second line is going to be sponsor address, and my third line is going to be sponsor city, space, sponsor state, space, sponsor zip. Next, I'm going to sort by zip. Next, how does it want me to ID? And I want to do LBL sponsors. Sponsors, yes. And finish. And there we are. So step 11, all items involved in database must be named and designed according to standard practices. And I have LBL, FRM, QRY, TBL, and everything in my labels has spaces and it's all laid out correctly. All of my different items are in place. Life is good. So that finishes everything I need to do in order to earn a C.